Are you sure about this?
Yep.
Is there anything I can do to change your mind? I can give you a good comic like Indestructible Hulk.
I appreciate that, Joey, but I have to do this. Spider-Man?
Well, Spider-Man's one of your favorite comic book characters of all time. Spider-Man and his amazing friends is what got you into reading comic books in the first place. I mean, come on, dude, we know the story. It's written all over your face.
Is it that obvious?
Well, from the looks of it, yeah.
Yeah, but I have to do this. Not for me, but for everyone watching. They need to know exactly what they're dealing with when they read Amazing Spider-Man 700.
Well, good luck. Poor guy.
Thanks. I'm gonna need it. Spider-Man, Spider-Man. You've been doing whatever a spider can for as long as I can remember. And now it's my solemn task to review your last story as Peter Parker in Amazing Spider-Man 700. This comic, one might say, is a more earth-shattering status quo-changing event than One More Day and One Moment in Time ever were. One could even say that it's not as bad as it seems, that it's just another story, and it will be resolved in the future. After all, Spidey is Marvel's flagship character. It's just another day in the office for him, right? As for me, I say it's all a matter of opinion. I'll get into that later. Right now, let's take a look at Amazing Spider-Man 700 and see how we got into this mess in the first place. And trust me, it is a mess. I'm not exactly sure what the creative process for throwing Spider-Man under the bus again was. In late 2012, Spider-Man's 50th anniversary was coming up, and writer Dan Slott promised an earth-shattering change for the Wall Crawler. As if One More Day wasn't enough, something big was going to happen, and Amazing Spider-Man 700 was going to be the last Spider-Man comic with Amazing in the title. Rumors then flew around saying that Peter was going to die or ride off into the sunset with Mary Jane, and in my opinion, it would have made for a good 50th anniversary story. Too bad it didn't have any gold. That would have been the perfect incentive for the writers to change their minds. Yeah, that's it. Naturally, fans were upset. Some people initially thought that One More Day was going to be resolved, and everything would go back to the way it was. It didn't happen quite like the way people expected. Reactions to Amazing Spider-Man 700 have been so bad that Dan Slott had to react to the problem on Twitter, and hey, even news sources like CNN reported on the backlash. Fans just didn't like the webhead and stories created just for shock value, and actually issued death threats on the guy. Okay, look, if a comic makes you upset, that's fine. It's one thing to be upset about the direction of a story. It's another thing to actually issue death threats on somebody. That's not cool. Some people have even said that this comic was going to be awesome because we all saw the solicitation saying that we were going to see a new Spider-Man in Marvel Now. Some people have even speculated that this would be Miguel O'Hara, aka the Spider-Man of 2099, taking over the reins. Hey, even the various Spider clones were considered viable options to replace Spidey if he ever retired. Now, why would people think he'd be retired? Well, because Slott said Spider-Man and MJ were going to be back together. That didn't happen, as we'll see. Here comes that mess I was telling you about. Not now, Dumbo! The story for Spider-Man's replacement started in Amazing Spider-Man number 698. Dr. Octopus, classic Spider-Man villain, was dying in prison after he tried to cook the world. Oh, supervillain schemes. When guns just don't cut it anymore. The Avengers led Spidey to where Dr. Octopus was lying on his deathbed. He had been dying for a few years now, comic time, and time was running out for the Doctor. It seemed that Doc Ock had some last words to say to his old enemy. Perhaps something like, "Heh, looks like you won, Spider-Man. After all these battles, you have my respect. You are my equal, and though I loathe to admit it, You've earned my respect, Wallcrawler. That would have been silly and completely unrealistic. Instead of getting a solemn moment between hero and villain, Doc Ock switches bodies with Peter via some technobabble. I think it had to do with Doc Ock doing something to his armor when they last fought. It doesn't really make any sense. It was never really explained how, and we never saw it occur. In issue 699, Doc Ock's body flatlines and the Doctors attempt to revive him as Pete wonders what unspeakable horrors Dr. Octopus is doing in his body. Want me to add on to the horror? Dr. Octopus? Otto Octavius? He was once married to Aunt May in order to get access to a family fortune. Have fun sleeping tonight. Not being one to take it lying down, Pete attempts to access Ock's memory and download himself into an Autobot, one of Doc Ock's robot minions now available from Hasbro. Using the Autobots, Pete summons Dr. Octopus's criminal pals from the Sinister Six and they bust him out of the raft, thinking he's really Doc Ock. This brings us to Amazing Spider-Man 700, the ultimate showdown between Spider-Man and his arch nemesis, Ben. No, not him. The Green. No, not him either. Oh yeah, Dr. Octopus. Him. I hate to admit it, but this cover is actually awesome. We see various small pictures of Spider-Man and his cast over the years, and if you pull back, the mosaic of images become a picture of Spider-Man's eye. That is kind of cool. I'm getting off track. Time to turn the page. Our story begins in the apartment of Peter Parker, where Peter is seriously putting the moves on Mary Jane, and knows how to please her since he has access to Pete's memories, his powers, his young, virile body. Is this the opening to Spider-Man the porno? Doc Ock says that he will have something Pete hasn't had in a long time, and says to MJ that they are on their way back together. Before anything can go any further, thank God, an alarm sounds and Peter Octopus rushes to a computer that tells him when Dr. Octopus news pops up. Way to pretend to be Pete, pal. Come on, Mary Jane, you can tell it's not really Pete, right? Right? MJ understands that Octo Pete has to go and save the day. He has to save the world. He books a flight. Our hero. No, it seems he wants to wait out Pete's death in Doc Ock's body. Elsewhere in Doc's secret lair number 4,000,000, Pete wakes up to see that his minions are grafting life support to Doc Ock's original mechanical arms. Pete tries to get into the rollers Ock so as to not arouse suspicion when suddenly the trapster inadvertently electrocutes Pete and he gets tripped into the afterlife. Or is it? Yes, he's actually in the afterlife, and everyone he has ever loved is there. A voice behind him tells him that it isn't his time. He turns around and sees Silver Sable, who died in Pete's second-to-last battle with Doc Ock. She's angry for not killing Doc Ock when he had the chance. A warm hand touches Pete's shoulder and... Comic, you're not gonna go there, are you? You're not. The hand, of course, belongs to Captain Stacy, who... Oh, did you think I was going to say Uncle Ben? Don't worry, he's coming. Pete says that he let everyone down, and the captain assures him that he never faltered from the right path. And Gwen says, we'll all get to be together. Gee, that's great, Gwen, but there's one small problem. He didn't want to go. And of course, it's all building up to one last person appearing. Come on, if you're a fan of the series, you know he'd show up at a gathering like this. Ladies and gentlemen, Uncle Ben. Ben says that he can't let Dr. Octopus run around as Spider-Man and as Peter Parker. He needs to fight him one last time. If I didn't spoil things enough already, I'd be very hopeful, because that was actually a very good scene. Octo Pete comes to and tells the Sinister Six that there is much work that needs to be done. They ask what the next plan of action is, and it's to go to the authorities. Pete, don't blow your cover. At the airport, our hero gets wind of J. Jonah Jameson, the mayor of New York, responding to the threat of Dr. Octopus. And even though he's about to die, Jolly Jonah says that Otto Octavius was a buffoon and accomplished nothing of note in his life, and that Otto is a loser. Of course, not Peter pauses at the startling revelation. What's the matter, Doc Ock? Did you think you were Mother Teresa or something? I mean, I know you had a thing for old ladies, but... At the police station, Octo Pete's gang beats up some cops, and Pete warns that killing any of them would alert the Avengers. Given some time to slip away, he makes his way to a storage locker where stuff from Spider Island is kept. There, he finds something that could help him in his mission to regain his body. A gold Autobot that could swap brain patterns back to the right body. Then he comes across Officer Carly Cooper, Pete's ex. This is gonna get awkward. Pete tries to explain that it's Spider-Man in control of Doc Ock's body. Just saying that doesn't make sense to me either. Then again, when have comics ever made sense? He tries to tell her that he's Peter, and Carly rightfully shoots him.
Symbolism!
On instinct, Doc Ock's arms attack Cooper, and after sealing the wound, the gang leaves. Speaking of Doc Ock, it seemed that he decided not to run away. Nope, he decided to gather all of Parker's friends and family to protect him from Doc Ock. In fact, he said that Peter even bought a ticket out of the city. Oh shit! Oh shit! Sorry, I must have something stuck in my throat. I'm actually allergic to bullshit! Octo Pete sends a message to Pete, who is still in Ock's lab, and says that all of Pete's loved ones are with him, and that his current hideout is rigged to blow. However, our Pete was wise to that and disarmed all the explosives. Otto says that's all well and good, but he has alerted the police to his location. So Pete asks Hydra Man and Scorpion to cause a distraction and not harm the cops. Yeah, they'll listen. Back in the safe house, Mary Jane decides to have a little chat with Octo Pete. And of course, he shows little disregard for MJ yet again. You know, if you want this woman, you may want to be nicer. What the hell am I saying? Naturally, she assumes it's Pete and says that he's scared, and responds by disregarding her pep talks and asks her why she's still around. MJ confesses her love for Pete, and Ock pauses a bit before kissing her. We should be thankful he isn't kissing Aunt May right now. Really thankful. Dying, our Peter breaks into Avengers Tower. He's trying to get the gold Autobot to the Avengers so someone like the Beast or Iron Man can change him back to normal, and so I wouldn't have to call him Octopete or Peter Octopus anymore. This is confusing enough as it is. Otto as Spidey shows up at Avengers Tower and pretends to be Spidey as he defends the place. In response, Peter orders Scorpion and Hydra Man to get him. Haven't they noticed that Spidey isn't talking like Spidey? No quips and calling the two simpletons? Otto blurts out that he knows Spidey can't find where he hid Jameson and the others, and this mere mention of Jameson's name sends Scorpion into a blind rage. Otto gloats about how Peter's loved ones are in danger and goes off. Scorpion busts open the safe house door and is stopped by Octo Spidey, who says, "You will not harm that dear sweet lady," when he threatens Aunt May. Suddenly, Ock gets a flashback to Aunt May telling Peter that she loves him, and he responds with, "What the hell was that?" I agree, it wasn't an image you quite expected, was it, Doc Ock? Ock comes to and manages to duck Scorpion's tail, and he has decided he has enough of Scorpion and proceeds to break the guy's jaw. Of course, this actually impresses J. Jonah to the point where he's like, "I always knew you had it in you, kid." Speaking of impressed, Ock's astonished at Pete's great strength and realized that in all these years, he had been holding back. Peter Octopus arrives, and yes, I'm going to go with that nickname now. And Octo Spidey continues the charade of pretending to be Spider-Man as he uses impact webbing on his friends and family. This angers Pete, and he declares that he's going to end this now if they fall through a window to the street below. They land on a web cushion, and as Otto's body dies, Pete transfers his consciousness to the tiny gold Autobot. The tiny Autobot begins an epic speech. Even if that body only had seconds left, I knew what I was doing when I made that jump. I was ending your life. That's a line I swore I'd never cross. That's a line I swore I'd never say. Peter tries to insert his consciousness into his body, and unfortunately it fails thanks to some fancy added features to the Spider-Man costume. There's that Parker Luck rearing his ugly head again. Turning around, Octo Spidey socks his old body, and he prepares to finish our hero off once and for all. As Peter lays dying in Ock's body, both men get images of Uncle Ben flashing in his mind. It seems that Pete's memories are influencing Ock's action. The Autobot beams his brain patterns into his body. Octo Spidey declares that it won't work. However, Pete's life is flashing before his eyes. All the memories, all the tragedy and triumph, all that made Peter Parker the amazing Spider-Man floods to Doc Ock's head, In the end, he says it's too much. I'd have ended it there and just have Dr. Octopus take the shot, but that would have been sensible. Instead of that heroic ending, we get this. Pete says that Doc Ock can do amazing things with the life he now has, as everyone gathers around him. Of course, they're just out of earshot as Pete says to Ock, "Careful what you wish for." He wanted to be Spider-Man. Now he has everything. All the powers, all the memories, and everything that made him a hero. He says that he has to do it, because with great power, there must come great responsibility. He has Ock promise that he'll keep MJ and everyone safe, and finally passes on. Peter Parker, as we knew him, has died. Otto then declares that he will carry on in his name, and become the superior Spider-Man. It's over. Where do I begin? This story would have been better if it was the Green Goblin who orchestrated this whole plan, not Dr. Octopus. Yes, Doc Ock appeared before Norman did, but let's not mince words here. As the Green Goblin, Norman Osborn continually came back to challenge Peter like Moriarty did to Sherlock Holmes. Norman actually came the closest to breaking Peter, not just his body, but his mind in various ways. Yes, he's now technically everyone's baddie after the Civil War, and I'm not saying Dr. Octopus isn't a bad supervillain and couldn't have done this. He has challenged Spidey before in many ways. I'm just saying that Doc Ock in the end shouldn't have been the one to have a final confrontation with Spider-Man, because it's Norman Osborn who has always had it in for Peter in and out of the costume. Otto has had his gripes with Spidey over the years. So has every single member of his Rogues Gallery. That's why they call it a Rogues Gallery. There's no single supervillain who wouldn't have wanted to take a crack at the webhead. What's really confusing is why Doc Ock was picked to be Peter's final foe, and not someone like the Green Goblin, who was responsible for killing Gwen Stacy, masterminding the Clone Saga, and more without him being an Avengers-level threat. I don't think this story was worth ranting at Dan Slott about, even if I didn't like it. And I've liked some of his other work. Is it a gimmick? Yes. Will it eventually be resolved? Most likely. Fans are going to do what fans are going to do, no matter what anyone says. They're free to hate a story and any creator they like. Do I think this story was a bad idea? Yes. However, I really think it would have been best if this was a few comics and a huge deal wasn't made about it. When it didn't happen the way people expected it to, the bad taste of One More Day returned, as it was a very annoying slap to the face. And that's why many people were upset. I just think to really change Pete, he doesn't need these shocking events to make him grow. Things just need to happen naturally for him, and writers should explore new ways to do that, instead of new ways to annoy the fan base and rock the industry. We as fans buy the comics, and a lot of us are tired of these things happening to our favorites. Yes, we want new adventures. However, we want our heroes to triumph over the darkness, and not fail all the time. We don't like shocking events that just serve to alienate older fans of the series, and confuse newer ones. Like Joey said, Spider-Man is my favorite Marvel character, and in the recent past, Marvel has thrown him through the ringer. Yes, he's supposed to be the hard-luck kid, but I don't know many hard-luck kids that get involved with deals with Mephisto, or have their brains swapped with their baddies. It has nothing to do with being realistic or not, and I think it would have been less shocking if this was just a few issues leading up to a final battle in 700, and have Doc Ock and Pete say their final words to each other. That would have been a more powerful story. We'd get Pete's take on Doc Ock, and Doc Ock's take on Pete, and finally end with them showing respect for one another. Instead, we get a new title that I'll get into next time, called The Superior Spider-Man.
Yo, Chris, how you feeling?
I still have Superior Spider-Man #1 to do.
Well, I guess the comic didn't break you entirely.
Thanks, Joey. And thanks for watching Comic Showcase. I'm Seafarer, and I'll see you in the funny papers.